Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today and welcome to my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, I hope you choose to do so, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to be notified of future videos and some freebies. I've wanted to try sublimating on a glitter notebook for a while now and saw this notebook on clearance at my local grocery store. I like the fact that it is tape bound rather than spiral bound, and thought this would be a good candidate not only for a sublimation project, but also to keep track of the settings for other projects that I sublimate. In this video tutorial, I'll show you how to design the cover, I'll give you some tips for aligning it to the notebook, and finally the sublimation of the print. So let's go ahead and get started. So here are some of the basic supplies you will need for this project. You'll need a glitter notebook, a graphics program of your choosing, a sublimation printer, a heat press, and the clip art for the design of the cover. Okay, so let me show you how I'm going to set up this project. I've got Photoshop open. It's Photoshop CC 2020. I've got an 8.5 by 11 document, 300 dpi. So the first thing I need to do is go down and click Layer, Add New Layer. And I'm going to draw a box that represents the printable area of the notebook. So in this particular case, the silver glitter part of the notebook measures 6.75 inches wide by 9.75 inches high. So under the width, I'm just going to highlight that whole box and type in 6.75, hit my space bar, and then the initials IN for inches, hit the tab key, and then type in 9.75 space bar IN and hit return. So now I have a box that represents those exact measurements. I'm going to take away the fill, and then under the outline, or the stroke as they call it in Photoshop, I'll make that black and make it 1 millimeter. And again, this box is just a reference for me to, as a guideline for my graphics placement. So I've got that part done. Then I'm going to go to Add Layer. Then I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded, and I'm using a graphic from the Big Orchids collection, and I purchased this from Design Bundles. And it does give me two options. It gives me a JPEG version and a PNG version. Now the PNG version will be the best one. I'll place that on my document, and then I'm just going to size it so that it fits within that rectangle. So I'm going to squash this just a little bit. I don't want to distort it too much, but I think that looks good right there. I don't want to go all the way to the edge, but I do want it to be fairly symmetrical, because it's got this bit here and here, but I think it would be too difficult to go edge to edge. So that looks really good. So next I'm going to add some text. So I'll go back down to the bottom right here and click on Add Layer. Go over to my text tool, and I'm going to call this one My Sublimation Projects Notebook. Okay. And I'm going to increase the size of this to fill up this space. All right, I think that look, oops, I moved it. Got ahead of myself there. Okay, so that's in place, that looks great. Now I'd like to intensify the colors a little bit since this is going on to a glitter background. So I'm going to click on that graphic, and then I'm going to hit the Control key on my keyboard and the letter L, and this brings up the levels panel. Now the midtones, if I move those towards the right, you can see that darkens things up a little bit. And I'll also go to the dark levels here and pull those up, and that just darkens it a little bit, but it will make a difference for the print. Then I'm going to go down to the FX panel, and I'm going to add a drop shadow. So you probably didn't see that there. So let me uncheck the box so there's no drop shadow, and then I'm going to click it again. So this is the default of the drop shadow, so it's very slight, but again it helps to give that the graphic just a little bit of a boost because it's separating from the background. So I think that looks pretty good, and I think that's all I'm going to do for graphics at this point. So next, what I want to do is go back to this original rectangle that I drew, and again this was the exact size of the area that I could sublimate on. So if I printed this, I'm going to have that black line around the graphic, which I don't want, but I would like something as a guide to help me align it to the cover. So to resolve that, I'm going to increase the size of this by 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to go up to the width and the height and change it from 675 to 7 inches and 10 inches. And then hit OK. And so it's just slightly bigger now, but it's going to, actually let me center it, there we go. So once I've printed this, I can go ahead and cut away just inside this black line. I'll use my paper trimmer to do that, and that way it's going to help me place and align that image perfectly on top of that glitter cover. So I'll go up to File, Print, and I've got a Workforce 7720 that has been converted for sublimation. I'll go to Print Settings and choose one of the profiles that I've set up. If you're interested in learning how to do that, I'll go ahead and put a card up here in the corner with a link to that video. So this already has all the settings that I need, and then I'll hit OK. Then I'm going to click on Print, and I'll see the Epson preview box should come up here in just a second, and that's perfect. So I've got my 8.5 by 11 paper. It's mirrored the image for me. All I need to do now is send that off to the printer. So here's my sublimation print, and I'm going to use my handy paper trimmer here and just line that black margin just outside the cut line. So I'm going to cut inside of the black box. So you can see I'm just trimming away probably less than about eighth of an inch maybe. And make sure you remove all of that black line, otherwise it will sublimate onto the cover of the notebook. Okay, so that just took a few seconds. And you can see that fits perfectly on top of the cover. So this is definitely going to aid in alignment of that print to the cover. And I'll just take my heat tape and just secure that to the top. Alright, so that's all done, and now it's time to go off to the heat press. So I'm just placing a piece of paper on the bottom platen of my heat press. I'll place the notebook print side up. I'll be using firm pressure, and I'm just going to place a couple of sheets of paper on top of that to protect it. And then my heat press is set at 400 degrees for 60 seconds. Now I was a little concerned about how that binding tape would hold up under the heat press, but it turned out great. Didn't have any issues with it, except the heat tape did stick to it a little bit, so that's something you kind of have to pay attention to. All right, that came out great. Look at that, perfectly aligned. Got nice colors on there. So let me see if I can get that closer to the camera. Just beautiful, look at that. So here's the finished notebook. I did let it cool down under another heavy item. That way it stops it from curling up a little bit, but it turned out really beautiful. And this is a mug I had done from that same collection. This is one of the very first mugs that I sublimated. And I thought, whoa, that looks really nice together. And then I remembered I'd also done a mouse pad with that same pattern. So that looks like a really nice collection altogether. So this is another item that you could, or another collection that you could make to give to somebody as a gift. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If so, give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified of future videos. Thanks for watching.